Welcome to another episode of the Fireside Chats on AI and applications in food safety. I am Nikos Manouselis, and I have the tremendous, amazing, glorious joy to have with me Nicola Colombo. Welcome, Nicola.
Hello, Nikos. Wow, what an introduction. It's my pleasure to be here and my honor. I mean, talking about food safety expertise, definitely I'm facing one of the most expert as well. So honored to be here.
It's a pleasure. And let me say that what you do is that you're leading the DIGICOMPLY business line of SGS. So you're the global head of this business line. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, when we say business line, I mean, in fact, SGS it's a leading testing, inspection, and certification company. So we provide audit, certification, training, testing. We have a large network of laboratories. It's a public company based headquartered in Geneva. We have about almost 100,000 employees around the world, and I manage this digital business unit that specifically address the issue of addressing regulatory compliance and supporting with data the control of food safety risk in essence. So within a bit more of a traditional business, we are a purely deep tech kind of business unit within SGS, and we operate globally.
This must be very interesting, yeah? Being the digital and technology people in such a traditional organization. How does this feel?
Yeah, it is indeed an interesting challenge. I mean, not only for the differences between a digital and traditional business, because digitization, it's actually, let's say, transforming all the businesses. But where is also interesting is that it's also the difference on how we work. Now, we've always been operating more like as a startup mindset. That it's plugged into a large corporation. That's also quite an interesting way of working. But in the current landscape of technology, especially talking about data-driven businesses, and when you want to apply AI in this space, you have to be extremely fast, because I'm not even able to watch all the announcements of the big tech player and see what they are doing, because every day there is something new. So
the landscape is changing.
Exactly. This basically give the pace on how things are, especially in the last let's say 18 months. Things are going faster and faster. So you need agility. You need a pace that sometimes you think better to have smaller teams rather than extremely large organization if you want to perform on a specific goal, which is addressing a bit more specific problem, a bit more narrowed challenge that you want to address. That it's basically the food safety.
What I really admire about your team is, first of all, the agility that you're describing. Indeed, you are like a startup growing a technology business within a more traditional organization. But I also find fascinating that you're not only focused on solving internal data problems, but you are actually a front-facing team providing digital services to the end customers of SGS. So can you please elaborate a little bit more on that? What is this that you're offering when you're saying regulatory compliance and other things?
Yeah, in fact, within this business line, we basically have the entire, let's say, value chain in control, or let's say in the delivery, starting from, and I like to use the analogy of food. Now, imagine that within my tiny business line, we are almost like a food company that has to deal of all the processes from farm to fork. Imagine now, it's not so typical that you have a company that is so verticalized that is able to manage the agricultural process, harvesting, getting the commodity in, and so on and so forth, until the product is consumed at the consumer side. We are pretty much so verticalized in the sense that among this value chain, we are responsible for collecting the data, transforming the data, extracting the relevant insight, and then let's say build and package this into a usable interface, no? Where it's like the food packaging, no? Each and every one of these steps has somehow an analogy in the food value chain, and then supporting the customer in using this, like explaining how they can cook this product, how they can make a good recipe out of it, which means, for example, how to integrate this data into their existing infrastructure or existing, let's say, IT landscape, maintaining, always ensuring that this data has a quality. So it means we have to perform the food safety and the food quality checks in a way now on the data we provide. So that was just to say what we do now. So we're really building, maintaining, and then supporting the solution for our clients, including custom projects that requires also dedicated resources to customize and to create a specific solution for the client. In terms of the use case, when we say regulatory compliance and food safety, from a regulatory compliance, we basically provide the knowledge of what the regulations, requirements, or regulation foresight information are required by the company, because operating in a global market in a regulatory landscape that is constantly evolving is challenging. And even for large organizations that they have distributed teams across different markets, making sure that they have access to the knowledge about the policies, which are always complex. MRL are different, pesticide residues limits are different all around the world. What type of testing method you can use in a certain market or in another, what type of labeling provision you have to use here or there, and those are all constantly changing. So what we provide is a way to have a centralized place where to gather this knowledge in a more universal structure, universal language. So we translate everything to English, and so those organizations, they can ensure that they can comply with these regulatory requirements or standard or policies or even guidelines, because sometimes they are not even mandatory, and in an easy way, and use this data throughout their product life cycle processes, from the time they may innovate a product and they need to generate a brief to describe and define what are the requirements of the product, to the time it's actually printed, the label that goes on the packaging. And this is where the information about regulatory compliance are needed. But regulatory compliance means also regulation that are not just let's say related to the trading, to the governance of a product, to the information to consumer, but in the food area, regulatory means also food safety. So there is a very strong overlapping. So regulations are driven by a food safety principle. So whenever there is a certain restriction on the usage of an ingredient, or in the usage of a certain claim, or the usage of the label, there is always a consumer safety perspective in the fact in the way that the product might contain certain thresholds of residues of certain chemicals from agriculture, and so on and so forth. So the regulation then enter into the food safety field, where normally quality control and food safety teams in the food manufacturing or in the retail, they have to be a knowledge about these requirements so that they can use this input to as one of the many inputs to perform their risk assessment and surveillance plan. Risk assessment that is made and it's actually part of the scope of the food safety role and the certification as well within food companies. Basically means that you need to collect these regulatory requirements, but also assess the supply chain in terms of risk and what type of, and based on that, generate the surveillance plan. So the second part of our portfolio is related to food safety, providing the insight, mostly from public available information, transforming this raw data, those so diversified sources of information into a more coherent and actionable knowledge, so that again our clients can then use it to as an input to understand where the risks are, if there is some emerging one, if there are some new trends, if there are some new hazards that they need to be aware, and therefore adapt their surveillance plan in a way that they somehow provide the safest possible product to their consumers.
So I hear you describing a data value chain that is having new updates, new types of information constantly being generated at the source, and then taking lots of different steps so that eventually this can be transformed into a digital product, a data product or a digital service to support decisions. And where does AI come to play, Nicola, in this data value chain?
Right. You state correctly about a continuous update. So it's a sort of pipeline, no? So once you have a static data set and you start, shaping it and pivoting and analyzing, then you might use some data analysis tool. You may use some more programmed approach. But when you have such a dynamic data pipeline, AI really comes into play because it allows you to perform certain tasks in all the different stages of this data processing pipeline to basically ensure you can ingest a larger input and distill what is relevant essentially with less effort. So where I see AI maybe seems to be a bit trivial, but I see AI to allow more throughput with the same amount of human resources. That's for sure the truth, because we can oversee more data points, more sources, and automate, always with a human in the loop, with a supervised approach that allows to retrieve this knowledge and supervise this data transformation process in a faster way.
Faster and more efficient and a wider access to all the data input that can be collected, processed, and then driven into the process. But then you're also using AI at another part of the value chain at the end, where you're supporting your users. Can you describe a little bit more about how you do this?
On the end, the user side, now it's, the users interact with AI, and they've been interacting with AI since we started. Now it's a little bit more on the forefront because there is a human to machine interaction. In our system, it's mostly used from a conversational standpoint. We use more and more what is now called more like a chat interaction, and it will certainly evolve to a multimodal interaction, also being able to use voice interaction. We've seen that even last week there was some amazing presentation from, for example, from OpenAI about the new conversational capabilities. So there is a big step up on how you can even use the voice to interact with machines. So those are the type of, let's say, interface with AI. But the user also in a more passive way, they interact with AI because the data they see, the information that they can visualize in the UI, it's basically being possible to be at that certain speed, volume, let's say, and quality, only thanks to the fact that behind there are AI models, AI tools, AI steps that allows to, for example, understanding after few hours or few minutes from data are available on the web to get certain insight and to update certain prediction or forecasting analysis. Something that without this technology, it would have probably taken days or weeks before processing this and transforming into an actionable insight.
So practically what I hear you describing is the process of building what we would call traditionally a very large knowledge base, a very large database of high quality information. You're applying AI, advanced AI techniques and using advanced tools to populate it with high quality data in a faster, more efficient and automated way. And also to facilitate the conversation, the interaction of human users with this wealth of information.
Yeah, because
so it's easier for someone to communicate.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Because more data doesn't necessarily means easier to understand. So this large knowledge requires interaction for data retrieval that needs to be more democratized in a way. Even if you are not a data scientist or a data engineer or maybe a very tech savvy food engineer, you need to be to use it. You need to generate value out of that. And so these new kind of AI agent are certainly helping generating insights also for in an easier way, in a more natural interaction. In fact, we use also the term natural language interface in AI, and those are basically those text to machine, now that I can voice to machine controls, and this is accelerating now because we know about this. It's not new. I mean, everybody has an assistant on the phone since 10 years. I don't want to mention my brand, but I have it at least since 10 years. Do I use it? No, because it's not yet as fast, as efficient, but it's getting there. And inside my phone, I have the data. So if I want my phone to find a photo with the voice, I will, after 5 seconds, throw it away because I say, okay, it's better if I scroll the photos. The same is it's happening in any type of knowledge, any type of data set. We also are going, AI is transforming also the way we can access this vast amount of information. So it's becoming more and more AI also for specialized tools, specialized knowledge fields. I see AI that it's becoming more on the forefront for the end users, while probably 5-6 years ago when we started, AI, it was for engineers. It was for us to run a classification algorithm model, but there was no touch point between the machine per se and the end user.
And you see this changing now. Is there something that you have achieved, your team has achieved in the past few months and that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I think it's over the last 12 months, it's becoming more available to everyone. So I think if you have already the data, you have already the data pipeline, now plugging in this new AI-based application to interact with this data, it's I don't think this is the differentiation, because at the end, this AI application that we see from the large big tech giants, it's not something where startups can compete. And I believe many of those, every time there is a new announcement, are falling apart. In fact, what I believe is that we need to have the data. We need to own this. We have to own the process to collect the data and to transform it. And then, the AI applications that can make good use of that, it's a little bit more commoditized, and it's really linked to a currency that only few will have the way forward. The currency is the computing power, because those extremely widely trained model that can understand so much, and they can lead toward what they call the AGI, the artificial general intelligence. They require huge computing power. In fact, I think the race toward those capabilities, it's becoming more and more reserved to a few tech giants, and it's not anymore a race or a battle on who has more data to train a model on. It's more about who has more computing power to and to make even the model more efficient. I mean, either ways now, either you have more brutal force or you have a model that runs more efficiently. But the data, for me, it's segmenting the data and decide on which chunk of your data, with piece of the data you want to get help on the AI. That's the way forward, because we cannot consider having models that does all the knowledge, and even within a company, you cannot have a single model. Imagine that you have a company knowledge base. You cannot have a model that have access to the entire knowledge of a company. It will contain employees' medical data and lots of privacy related. So you will have to have models that are able to decide where they can go to pull the information and elaborate those based on even security and data privacy policies. I mean, maybe we can use an analogy. Creating 20, 30 years, we started creating some online knowledge bases, to store documents for a company. Everybody has its own knowledge base. And after a few years, everybody got crazy because the security policy were basically falling apart, because we were saying this document is accessible to this and this guy, but not the other. At a certain point, when you wanted to rationalize these rules, was impossible. And the knowledge was not anymore knowledge, because it was not accessible anymore, not only because of the search engine. So I think AI will need to basically generate the reasoning based on real-time information, based on what we as humans say. We ask AI to, this is the context, and the context might be 1 billion documents or 2 documents, or 1 billion lines of Excel data or 2 lines. But every time we prompt and we ask something to AI, we need to be able to only give the data that it has to be sufficiently generally understanding all concepts to interpret the information we input and generate the output that we need, without being trained that much on that particular example.
And what's the biggest obstacle in doing this, Nicola? What do you think?
For me, as I said, it's the currency of the future. So what is basically the computing power.
Computing
I think,
power.
as I said, the battle is now moving on the processors. All the big giants are more than investing on data now, are investing on processor. Last week, Google announced the availability of the new GPUs. OpenAI, it seems that it's building up a plan for a few trillions dollars investment on computing power. So that's where they will be the currency of the future, more than training their model on more and more knowledge. I mean, a large language model that is trained with the knowledge up to yesterday or 1 year ago, it should not make the difference, because the knowledge retrieval should not come from the knowledge that the model is trained on, but the context that we provide to that model in the right time.
And what is the role, because I hear you describing the technology giants and the technology businesses. How is a testing, inspection, and certification giant position in this race?
Extremely in the part of the data side. So whether it's a technology giant or a small startup that starts from scratch, but find a way to generate knowledge or data in a way that can monetize this, that will be more, let's say, a more solid business than someone who has developed a specific algorithm or a specific model that is able to read a certain data set. I think it's, I see the data as for the non-tech giant, for who has either it's a TIC company or a tech startup, I see that it's, let's say, for sure better to be focused on ways of capturing, transforming, collecting data, whether this is because they, and in our sector, there's more and more devices connected, more and more sources of data that, creating something that allows this data collection at ease, that's probably the winning paradigm. And it's not only for startup, as you asked me, for the big TIC companies, it's same challenge. I mean, how can a network of laboratories distributed around the world and make sure that whatever it's happening in Thailand, it's immediately in a device for the lab. It's happening now, this test, within few minutes, that information, it's, let's say, usable to potentially run a decision or a prediction that can impact a company which is on the other side of the world and is not maybe directly connected to that particular lab sample. That's the challenges.
That's very interesting, Nicola, because what I hear you describing is a real-time data transmission infrastructure, and you highlight a lot the importance of investing in the currency of computing power. So these arguments, how easy it is for you to communicate them to stakeholders like the ones that you have in an organization like SGS?
Yeah, I think somehow the way I was explaining it right now, we need to capitalize on data, and doesn't mean that we don't do technology. Oh, I have the data and I make money with the data. That's not that easy. No, every single step. Let's go back to the analogy of the agribusiness. It's like saying, oh, I'm sitting on the data. It's like having the land. I have a big field in, if I'm lucky enough, I don't know, in Poland, where I can grow thousands of tons of strawberries. Well, okay, but if I don't apply all the tech to make the best strawberries, to ensure that I don't get bacteria, that I don't get molds, fungi that they may potentially impact my yield of my strawberries, it's not that just because I'm sitting on the field, I necessarily have good strawberries. No, there's so much work to do in order to get good strawberries. And what I'm saying is that, again, using the analogy there, as we potentially have the raw data and we want to generate the strawberry, there's a lot of activities to be done there, but we don't necessarily need to also create we can also become the specialist of crop protection. Crop protection is done by the large giants, that they are very good on this technology. And the same is in AI. The computing power is done by the tech giant, and we are more specialized in the task that are allowing to provide this beautiful and juicy strawberry to our consumer.
So
but without the tech giants, there's no way to move, because we wouldn't have enough computing power.
So the emphasis I hear you say for organizations like yours is on the hard work that needs to go into all the generating, collecting, and producing the data of high quality, the juicy data that is needed. And then you said earlier, but let's keep in mind that having more and more data in our hands doesn't make the life of our users easier. So we have to think about how to improve this interaction with the data part better as well. So from all the conversation that we had, if you wanted to highlight, Nicola, one key message that our audience should keep in mind, what would that be?
I think it's maybe it would be around what is the best AI application. For me, there are two cases of applying and of using AI. Either in a task or processes where you can accept error, and therefore you can, let's say, let AI perform the task autonomously, or the task where you cannot accept error, and therefore you need to stay vigilant and you need to supervise the output of AI. So I think as we are in food safety, and we basically cannot go into the first case, we have to consider that we need to see the AI as the co-driver, and definitely it's a very good analogy. I don't believe in self-driving car. I believe that there's already so much technology out there, AI-based, that makes driving safer, less tiring. I mean, now when I drive the car with all these assistants and beep beeps and so on, I basically drive safer, and I get, but I still hold the steering wheel, and that's somehow the message that that I would like to convey in the AI application in relation to food safety. We still have to consider AI as the assistant, the driver assistant, where we maintain the steering wheel. And I mentioned in the beginning, at the end, the surveillance plan that every company will have to implement, it's still in control of human. AI can support the decision making, can facilitate the decision making, can help us make better decision, which is an extremely important factor now, because we live to make, in the business, we live to make decision. Well, also at home, because every night I'm also afraid, forced to make the decision also when in the private life every time. Say, well, should I let my young teenager going out tonight, or no, I should not? I mean, that's the type of things. Fortunately, we don't need that much of data processing capabilities in order to make these personal decisions. But in the world of food safety, decisions are oftentimes requiring a huge amount of data to be processed in order to allow a decision to be considered good and to be taken, whether you want to test more, test less, include certain other things, change the supplier, change the ingredient, change the recipe, change the transportation factor, change the warehouse because it's potentially affected. There's so many decisions, right, that the food value chain has to make in order to ensure that the food is safe.
And you're saying food safety should avoid or eliminate errors. So this is a task that humans should be in control with an AI co-pilot that helps in all the difficult parts of collecting data and informing the decisions. And this makes perfect sense to me. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm maybe we'll be there, that there will be certain tasks completely done autonomously, but it's not. We are not there. We're not there yet, and I cannot predict exactly when this will happen. I think it will get less and less effort to make the decision. That's but we still maintain our expertise and our human being of interpret certain data, and also understanding other nuances that AI can only see what is visible there. I mean, also for us, but we can capture. We have more senses now. We have the eyes. We've been talking with someone. We have been hearing something. We've been so we can also combine our additional data that AI might not have access to, and therefore this combination at the end it's the best and the most effective. So combining the human intelligence with AI.
It's better and more relevant to focus on reducing the human effort and supporting the human effort, but we are not ready yet. These technologies are not ready yet. Maybe they will be in the future, but not yet, to replace and automate fully the decision-making process. And I like the way that you're describing it, because our sensory signals and capabilities are still more extensive. That's very interesting. Okay.
And of course, I mean, there are still applications. When I said there are some applications where you can consider a certain human factor. No, I mean, there are cases like we can empower AI just with a camera to look at out of a cheesecake factory. If there is a cheesecake, instead of white comes out brown, you need to stop it. In this case, the machine precision to recognize a color, it's 99.8. You can let it go, and you can accept that 0.2% of false positive, because you throw away a few more. You fine tune the model for the recall in a way that you maybe throw out one extra cake. And in this case, you can automate. But when it's about more complex decision that requires a lot of data points to connect, I see that definitely we still have to stay in control.
My last question, as a closing one, do you have any dream applications that you would like to see in food safety, but they're not there yet?
But I think it's we're gonna see, as I was saying at the beginning, the things are going so fast that we are working here and now, and to see this. I have the feeling that we still have a backlog of unexploited opportunities, what we currently have. So it might be that there is behind the corner, there is already another killer application that can come out. But at this point, I think it's there's so much on the plate on integrating, the natural interface with AI, with the data that we have around compliance and food safety. That's, I think, it's going to be transformative already. What will be the next, maybe in 5-10 years, it will be really probably those kind of AI agents that can really do a task end to end, that will include, let's say, digital task with physical task, combining also hardware and robots. So an agent that I can tell, go tell AI, I want to understand if we have a bit more potential issue on salmonella on this sample, go pick the sample in the field. A robot will go perform the test, send the data out, and then send me the report right away. So that's maybe the future of an agent that really perform like a humanoid and execute also not just data processing activity, but also physical work, combining the two, and operate machines as it could be, without being programmed specifically for, because right now we have a lot of automation and robots, but they are programmed for doing that task. Now, if you want to have a robot in the manufacturing line, you have to program it to do this, pull and then drop it down. So machines that will be able to operate in the physical environment that will be combined with data will be interesting, and probably in 10 years will be there.
So machines that can combine the digital world operations with the physical world operations, that's what I hear you describing. And the second, machines that we will put them a problem and they will work around the solution rather than instructing them specifically how to solve a problem. That's a good dream to have in mind for the next 10 years. Nicola, it was a pleasure to have you, and we could talk for hours, eh? You noticed.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nikos. So anytime, whenever you want to continue the conversation, just let me know.
Okay. We'll have another episode on the robotic hardware and digital world integration on it. Thanks.
It will be exciting. All right. Bye.